Every single website on the planet shares the exact same core structure. We define this structure using HTML tags, which tell the browser exactly how to interpret our content. Let's start by creating our very first web page. I've set up a repository here already. I have some configuration files, and I even have a folder here with some images that we're going to use. But I need to create a new file here. I'll call it index.html. That's essentially a home page for this directory. And I could type all of these tags from scratch, but there's actually a shortcut in VS Code where you can say HTML and then hit the down arrow to choose the one that says HTML:5. And that's going to give us everything we need for the basic structure of our web page. I will tab over, and there we go. So the first thing we see is the DOCTYPE HTML tag. This is the one that says to the browser, this is a file that you can create a web page from. Below that, we have the HTML tags that enclose everything. That's important because it marks it as the root of our entire page. Then we have two sections, head and body. You can think of the head as the brain. Everything inside of it is information that's held behind the scenes. It's invisible to the user. We have metadata, a title, and in the future, we'll be adding things like links to other documents. The body, on the other hand, is where our content goes that we want the user to see. So make sure when you are setting up your first page that you have all of these things structured just like this so that the browser knows how to interpret everything that you put inside of it. Now we're going to look at how you would divide up the body. Typically, you want to use 3 specific semantic tags. That would be header, main, and footer. They are exactly what they sound like, which is the point of a semantic tag. This one holds all of the important information at the top of the page, usually like a logo or a main title, a navigation menu, anything else you want to make sure that they see right up front. Footer is for the less important information like copyright statements and links to your legal information and anything else that you don't need the user to see right away. Main is everything in between, all of the content that you want to fill the page with. Now, we haven't added any content yet, but we do need to find a way to view this in the browser. One of the best ways to do it is to use Live Server. This is an extension that you can come and find here. Make sure that you have it installed and enabled, and it allows you to update the page in real time. Now, one of the things that it depends on is that you have saved your document before it will update it in the browser. But I actually have my VS Code set to autosave. You can see that right here. I've got a check mark next to this, which means it's continually saving as I'm typing, and it's going to update as I go without me having to stop and save it from time to time. To activate it, you can find the file that you want to open, index.html, right-click on it, and the very first thing you'll see once Live Server is installed is Open with Live Server. As soon as I do that, I get a page. It says 127.0.0.1. That's my system's homepage. It'll be the same for you. And then it also has a :5500. That's a port. It means that it's a specific outlet where it's allowing that information to be available, and then the browser can pick it up at that address. And then we see /index.html. Now, we don't see anything on the page yet, and that's okay. But if you open up your developer tools, I'm in Chrome. I'm going to go up to View, Developer, and say Developer Tools. That opens up a special panel on the right that allows me to see a lot of things going on behind the scenes with my documents. In this case, on the Elements tab, we can see that I have my head, and I have my body, my header, my main, my footer. Everything I wrote is there. We just don't have any content that's visible yet. But there is one thing we can do even before we put content on the page. This title, while it works behind the scenes for search engines to name your page and other purposes like that, it also puts something on the tab in the browser. So let's change this to say Adventurers Guild. And now when we look up here, we see on the tab it says Adventurers Guild. Let's go ahead and start adding some information to our header and footer. In the header, I'm going to create a heading that is the first level heading, so I'll call that H1. And I'm going to put the same name, Adventurers Guild. And you'll notice there was a little bit of a lag while it was saving and then serving it, but we saw that update here. And I can even add an emoji. I'm going to paste it in right there, and we see that pop up on the page too. Notice that the text is larger than you would expect, and it's bold. That's part of the styling that automatically comes with an H1 tag that the browser knows how to interpret and apply some default styling to. In our footer, let's put a quick copyright statement. I'm going to put it in a paragraph, which means I'm going to use the P element. So we have our opening and closing tags there. And I'm going to add a copyright symbol. And one great way to do that is to use what's called an HTML entity. Use an ampersand, put the code copy, and then a semicolon. And as soon as I do that, it's kind of tiny, but you can see that I've got a copyright symbol there. And now I'll add the rest, which will say 2026 Adventurers Guild Network. Okay, now we can see our header and our footer. And you might be wondering, why is the footer not at the bottom of the page? That's because we have no layout affected anywhere so far. We're just using plain HTML, and it starts at the top and just adds the content as it comes across it in the body. So as we add things in between main here, we're going to see it push that footer down toward the bottom of the page. But for now, this is okay. We can look back over here in our DevTools and see that header is now expandable, and we can see our H1 with our title there. The footer is expandable, and we see our paragraph with the copyright statement. So as you add things, you're going to be able to explore it anytime you want to here in the DevTools, and then continue to work back and forth between VS Code and the browser to develop the page. There's one more thing that I want to do to set us up for the next demo, which is to add a couple of things in main using some additional semantic tags. We'll start with a section. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to define a whole section of content on our page. And I'm going to add an ID attribute and give it the value hero dashboard. It is pretty common when you're adding attributes like ID to hyphenate them and keep them lowercase. Now, we're not going to do anything with this ID attribute just yet, but I'm going to leave it here so that we can clearly see which section this is. I'm also going to add something called an aside. Now, the browser treats this a little bit differently than section because when you use aside, it recognizes that it's a different column of information that will supplement the section, but isn't part of the main flow of the document. We're going to give this an ID too. This will be called Bounty Board. Okay. Now, I'm not going to put any content in here just yet. I'm going to save it for the next demo, but you can see if we open up main here that we have both our section and our aside ready to go. From here on out, what we're going to do is I'm going to add content in the section, that's the hero dashboard, and then you'll be able to come behind me and do a little bit of practice by adding things to the aside called Bounty Board. So just to recap, we have a working page. It starts with the DOCTYPE tag, opens up and closes HTML. The head and the body are nested inside. Head is for things that are behind the scenes. Body is for things you want to put on the page. Typically, the body is composed of header, main, and footer. And right now we have a single heading in our header, and we have a copyright statement and a paragraph in our footer. And then inside of main, we have a section and an aside that we're going to add more content to. HTML can be a little bit hard to read at first, but that's why indenting is so important. Make sure you're indenting every time you nest another group of elements, and it will help you keep it organized. Since this is the first demo and I was just setting up the page to start, there is no practice code for this, but there will be for the next one. So you'll want to go to the repository and use the 01-HTML-basics-starter branch, and then you can continue adding your own code for extra practice. I'll see you in the next demo.